There are a lot of new announcements around Microsoft 365 agents, and it is a very exciting time, and it's going to make a big difference as you look at 2025 as the year of agents and you embrace them at the business level, at the IT level, and of course at the organizational level. So today I wanted to do three things. I wanted to talk about what does this mean for the business and why is it really important? Then I want to talk about what does the business and IT need to do together as they embrace and understand these new agent models. And the third one that I want to talk about is what does this mean for finance and the future of ROI as it relates to Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot experiences. So let's start with number one. There are a number of agent experiences. Some of them are generally available today and some are coming very soon. So let's talk through them really quickly. As a business leader, you can use Copilot agents in SharePoint, which allow you to take your existing business documents and make them more valuable by using AI against those documents. We can essentially enable people to create a Copilot for a specific SharePoint site or a subset of content, and that allows us to have that Copilot experience calibrated, focusing on answers to those particular documents. So think of like a set of policies where you might ask questions about it, or you might have a product maintenance site with a bunch of product maintenance materials, and it can now, again, unlock more value from those product maintenance things where people can just ask natural questions, and it can reason over all that content within those documents, and provide responses. Now that's the basics of it, but there's so much more you can do from that point, because once you start to create these highly popular and useful agents, you can then allow the agent to take additional actions on your behalf, to automate actions, Copilot actions, and extended capabilities that those agents can do, either with IT support or with a little bit of experience and exposure to things like Copilot actions. Now that's a big deal because that means business can continue to lead in new ways with our existing content. Now I've talked about Copilot agents in SharePoint before. Now let's talk about some other big ones that are new and exciting. One of them, it used to be called Team Copilot. It is now called Facilitator Agents. So these are agents that work alongside you. And as a business user, this is really helpful because let's say we're having a meeting, I can have it take active notes and work on facilitating shared alignment and understanding, action items, things like that within the meeting context. But it's because it's shared, we all can work with that same agent and use it in different shared experiences. And that's a big deal because it's kind of like an extra collaborator working with us and doing things on our behalf. And it's not just limited to active meetings. That could be for a chat conversation. Let's say you have a chat, and there's lots of back and forth, and there's open questions, and there's action items, and there's key decisions that you're making. It could summarize and make sense of all of that, so it's keeping everyone on the same page. And even if you don't lead to shared commitment we want, we're at least creating shared understanding. Now, that's only the beginning of facilitator agents. There's so much more that it can do. Think about the importance of new changes like the fact that, another announcement from Microsoft, that AI can now reason over the visual content. So essentially in a meeting, we have visual content that's being shared, and it can have visual content understanding, not just the idea of understanding the transcript, but actually the context of what's being shared at those times. That's a really big deal, obviously, for us to use ourselves. But when you start to combine that with these proactive, effective facilitator agents, it unlocks even more opportunity in the near future. Another scenario for business, if that wasn't enough, is that we can use this for interpreters. We can have it translate for us. We can use it in different ways so that we can work across language barriers and other challenges like that, using maybe even our own cloned voice and other techniques like that that work really well today in the AI world. And those are great opportunities, but it's not just about how you use it for that. It's about the other benefits, like how you can now translate, as we look forward, your PowerPoint slides into different languages. And as we work through this in the next cycle and you now have access to these capabilities, you're yourself going to take your content that you've had for a while and find new ways, new audiences, new people that will benefit from that content by translating it without losing the branding, without losing, a lot of the hard work that goes into, say, a PowerPoint slide deck. And then again, if you come back to that interpreter model, we have real time, we have video scenarios with Clipchamp, we have things that are happening with PowerPoint. We have different scenarios where each of these provide new opportunities for us to use translation as a way to get more out of our content and to work, especially in organizations that are larger or, have a lot of geographic distribution where language becomes a bit of a barrier and a bit of a siloing effect. But that's also not where it ends. What about an active project manager agent that's working alongside you and helping you, create and craft effective work breakdowns and plans based on some simple goals you give it? What if it doesn't just do that, but then it actively tries to complete some of those tasks for you, and it actually brings them back and says, I need human input here, and works alongside your team for the project, and your team can provide comments and feedback and work with it. And you can have interactive things like a whiteboarding session where you come up with a bunch of new ideas and tasks, and then it can then again go and process those, distribute them, create them, and then work through those on your behalf or with your team. And that's another great opportunity area. So project management agents is another one. But again, it's not limited to that. You could have vendor and third-party agents. Let's say you love and use ServiceNow, or you use Workday, or you use, Cohere, you use some other system. Those also will have agents. They have agents that are being released, and those agents and experiences can be quickly and easily adapted in organizations that have those technologies, allowing for more usage, not just of those, but new ways in which they can drive value in the ways that you need it at the line of business layer, at the leader level, at the business layer. And that's not all. Employee self-service for HR and IT and other things are also coming. All of these agents, from agents in SharePoint, facilitator agents, interpreter agents, project manager agents, vendor and third-party agents, employee self-service agents, all of these have ways in which they help the business drive more value. But as I mentioned at the very beginning, that's not all I wanted to talk about. The second thing is, how does the business work with IT to really advance these agents and how they work? Well, it turns out that these agents are designed very carefully and intentionally with a framework that allows IT to report on their usage, to understand how they're distributed, to understand which ones are popular, how they're being used. And based on that rich understanding, they can do all sorts of things to proactively reach out to business lines and help them improve and further automate processes or further integrate and orchestrate connections between different agents. They can do things where IT cannot just look at those patterns, but even look at underlying security patterns. As an example, one of the things with agents in SharePoint is that it allows you to ground your content, which reduces the chances people do a query or a Copilot response looking at everything, and instead are looking at content that they should be looking at, right? I'm looking for policy information about these policies. But let's say you don't have access to all those documents. Even that's been thought through, where there's experiences built in that the leader who created that Copilot agent will get a notification saying, hey, you've shared it in this space, and people who want to see these responses, they don't have access to the underlying source data. Do you want them to not get access to the underlying source data? That's one option. But instead of that, do you want them to just see the response? Here's what the response is. Is this a breach? Is there information here that they shouldn't have access to? This unlocks the ability for us to easily share when it makes sense with less friction and use these agents to help us work across some of these, very important security barriers, but in a way that is supported, that's tracked, that's auditable, that has a lot of ways that give not just IT agency to figure out, good security modeling and things like that, but also for the business to be an active participant and figuring out when and how exceptions, not for sharing maybe that source of highly confidential information is, but the extracted, Copilot response that doesn't have that confidentiality because they make a subject matter expert decision where they understand the content and they say, this is fine to share with this audience. That's a big deal. So the fact that these things are thought through is a big deal for these new agent experiences. And that's only one of many, many sequences where AI is enabling business and IT to work a little bit more closely together. And I think really proactive ways for both sides, which is very exciting. But that's number two. There was a third thing I wanted to talk about, and that is what this actually means as we look forward for finance. Because right now, many organizations have been on a journey where they've been focused on digital assistants at scale, helping roll out and responsibly enable, which is very important, things like Microsoft 365 Copilot, so that they can benefit from these productivity gains, the quality gains, the things that Copilot drives. But what's interesting now is that the license of Copilot is now adding more and more value. Let me give you some examples. In the announcements from Microsoft, one of the many things that they shared was that SAM, SharePoint Advanced Management, is now included in Copilot. That's a big deal because for IT, it means they don't have to buy SAM licenses. It means that proactively designing good management, governance, and security is a lot easier with these tools, these first-party Microsoft tools that are AI-based and designed to support AI growth. And not only that, at the exact same time, they also added in Viva Insights licenses. So when you own a Copilot license, you don't just get SAM now, you also get Viva Insights. Why is that important? Well, Viva Insights allows us to understand our digital behavior, what's changed before and after you roll out Copilot. It allows us to take better targeted action, not just for adoption, but in terms of rollout and strategy and enablement. It helps us understand how are people using it, where are they using it, and what are the opportunities where we can potentially coordinate or facilitate better adoption and usage of these tools. So powerful from a business impact, alignment perspective for ROI and more is Viva Insights. And now it's included in the Copilot license. Not only are those true, but all the agent stuff we talked about is also included. It's included in that Copilot Microsoft 365 license. It's included in that capability with an option where if people don't have Copilot, they could still experience these agent. And these agents can be done based on a consumption. You essentially pay under Copilot Studio, you pay for this consumption, pay as you go kind of model. There's another way in which you can do that, which means that's a huge opportunity where we don't have to necessarily roll up everyone into Copilot, but we can at least have people use these agents where it makes sense, where it's adding value, learn through that experience, maybe even save some money doing it in that way, and then find the right way to scale into like the more traditional Copilot super user that we want. And that isn't everything either. For finance, there's one more thing, which is from December 1st to June of 2025, you will have 10,000 of these pay-as-you-go executions available to you per month. Use it or lose it, 10,000 per month if you have 50 licenses of Copilot or more. That's a big deal because then it means all this experimentation and trialing all these agents I'm talking about is something that has no cost potentially, up to 10,000. It's quite a few types of requests as you explore these different agents and as you explore how it might help all employees and different pools of employees, not just the ones we already are enabling in Copilot today. So 3 big things for the business: significant transformative impact. Agents are here. They've landed GA for Copilot agents in SharePoint, many more coming very soon. We have, number 2, new IT models so IT can be more proactive and work directly with the business. New things to think about. Agent sprawl is a thing. Copilot action sprawl is a thing. There's a lot of new things for IT to understand. So we need to be proactive and understand how the business can support us in that. And 3, it's so great for finance and this work that we're all doing on transitioning from AI readiness to return on investment acceleration, because that's where we are in our journey with AI today. And I hope for you, agents are a key part of that journey for you, because what we've seen is it's the most significant part of the return on investment strategy. And it's where you get the highest returns, is when we start to process automate on top of those digital assistant frameworks and experiences you have today. So I hope you're as excited about agents as I am, and I've given you a bit of food for thought around what matters for business, what matters for IT, and what matters for finance. Thanks so much. Bye for now.